Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope on this NFL trade line deadline day. It came and passed, and there were some big blockbusters. I'm going to talk about it. Talk about a team I'm really disappointed in. Actually, two, but really one particular team I'm disappointed in. Going over the big blockbuster trades, and there were some big ones here. It took me by surprise. One particular trade. Uh, Also, the NFL Power Five, and of course, I'll go over a few of the biggest games from last week. Give you my thoughts and analysis on that. So stand by. We'll take our first and only break, and I'll be back here momentarily and hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. I'm back here live. Okay, now, before I get started, I want to talk about the Jets here in just a second. I thought they had a really big day today. Buffalo Bills, yeah, and this is what I was afraid of. Now, of course, I did pick them. I did pick Buffalo to win the game. Thursday's program with the Mad New Yorker. I picked them to beat the Chiefs here. I picked them to tighten up their run defense. Played excellent. Joey Bosa, great. That's what they got Bosa for. That's what they got him for. But my thing is, I was afraid that they would be complacent today, and they were, especially with Ed Oliver, defensive injury. They still got, 7, 8 games to go. And here they are, nothing, sitting right on their hands. And I'm just afraid that come January, when they lose that game, when they gave up 180 yards rushing, do you think maybe you should have went after a tackle somewhere? Do you think maybe you should have called a Tennessee, maybe went after an Arden Key or Jeffrey Simmons, Tavondre Sweat, Tennessee's second-round pick last year, defensive tackle, looked promising at times. Do you think maybe one of those players, for example, call the Giants, maybe call the Saints, call one of these bottom feeder teams that want to sell, call one of those teams that want to sell, and nothing, just absolutely nothing, just total disgusted with that. Meanwhile, a team like Philadelphia, who's won a Super Bowl, who never sits on their hands, they go out and they get a guy like this edge rusher here out of Miami. They traded a third-round pick for him this morning. So it's the difference in philosophy. Rest on your hands, sit on your hands versus being proactive, being ahead of the game. Okay, but maybe I'll talk about them here in a little bit. All right, now, biggest story I thought of today was the Jets here. Depending on what people think, I don't know what the fan base sees of this, but the older fan base, the ones and there's a lot of smart fans out there, especially the ones guys that are my age, a little bit older, around my dad's age. 2 years is nothing. And I tell you what, the Jets are so loaded now with picks that they could be in the playoffs. Today is November 4th. 2 years from today, they can be a playoff contender. They can be a 5-3 Jets, a 6-2 Jets, and very promising. 2 short years from now. But anyways, so Jets make big trades for multiple first round picks, starting with 2 first rounds, getting a 26 and 27 from Indianapolis for Sauce Gardner. Remember that, and listen, Gardner's still a cornerback at a very high level. I want to say he's already signed his second contract. He's like 26 years old. Still considered one of the top cornerbacks. And matter of fact, Next Gen Stats put this out before this trade came about here. Said that he has faced opponent's number one receiver 45.5% of the time of his coverage matchups, NFL's highest rate in matchups. He beats out other players like Patrick Surtain, former Defensive Player of the Year, Quinton Mitchell from Philadelphia, Max Melton from Arizona, and Adoree Jackson, who's number 5 from Philadelphia here. That stat was put out. And, of course, now the Colts here, who look to have – I know they lost this past week. That is a huge plan in Lou Anarumo's system. You know, if I'm Lou Anarumo, and about 50, maybe 75% of the time, I'm looking at a guy like Sauce, and I'm saying, okay, see that guy over there? Number 1 receiver over there? Take him out. Take him out, you know? And, of course, I know they'll move him around. So, Jets get 2 picks for Sauce Gardner. And then they trade a few hours later Quentin Williams for a second round next year and a first round in 2027, whichever one's the highest of the 2 to the Dallas Cowboys here. And now the Jets are just absolutely flushed with pick. This is unbelievable. The Jets have their pick, which could be the number 1 overall pick. It's going to be between Tennessee, New Orleans, depending on more injuries or whatever, and, of course, the New York Jets for the first overall pick. So they'll have that pick next year coming up in April. They'll have Indianapolis first-round pick, probably be 28 to 32. I don't think it'll be 32, but somewhere around in there, maybe 26. And then they'll have, of course, their second-round pick. This is the 26. And then Dallas is second. Dallas could still fall apart, and that could be in the mid-30s or 40s. That's a good pick. It's inside top 50, perhaps. And then in 27, they'll have their first-round pick, Dallas's first-round pick, and Indianapolis's first-round pick. So essentially, you're talking – I mean, that is a lot of picks there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks for the next 2 years in the top 60. 7 picks. 64 teams. One of these teams wins. I don't think that's going to happen. But just for the sake, 7 picks in the top 64 picks in the next 2 years. I mean, that is and now, of course, I noted the fact that obviously you got to get the quarterback right. What if they go on a winning streak? Listen, Aaron Glenn wants to keep his job, all right? And of course, Justin Fields, he comes back. That dude wants to get a job somewhere. What if they win a couple games, a couple more? Because they got to play Miami again. What if they beat Miami? What if they fall down to 2 or 3 or whatever? And they don't want to the quarterbacks are off the board. The top 2 guys aren't trading quarterbacks, or somebody jumps ahead of them. I don't think so, but just for the sake of saying this, you take the best available player. But now you're looking at these 2027 picks. You have a possibility, and I'm almost guaranteeing this, that Arch Manning's going to come out in 2027. And DJ Lagway, who I still say is a mega talent, that's just 2 guys. I ain't even looked at 27. That's just 2 guys that I think that will come out that will be good, especially if Lagway gets a coach like a Brom or somebody. that comes over from Louisville, perhaps. Okay, Arch is going to be a good player. He's going to be a top-notch player. But other than that, maybe a Ty Simpson, maybe a Fernando from Indiana, one of those players. But here's the thing about the Jets: you've got to hit on that quarterback. We've already went through this a few years ago. Obviously, Sauce Gardner, Defensive Player of the Year. Garrett Wilson, Offensive Player of the Year, drafted in the same year. Okay, but you got Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson turned out to be a bust. But also remember, a few years before that, they drafted Sam Darnold. Now Sam Darnold's thriving with the playoff team. A second year in a row. Looks like, pending a bunch of injuries, he's going to go to a playoff team with the Seattle Seahawks. Then, of course, Geno Smith, he was awful with the Jets, and now he's been a starting quarterback in this league. So you cannot screw this up. And what I'm saying is, if I'm the Jets organization, I think Aaron Glenn's already a miss at coach. Just one and done him. Go out here, take your time, and find a really good offensive-minded head coach, and find and see if you can piece together a good staff for him. And I think you'll be cooking with gas. Again, 2 years from this day, minding Woody Johnson don't screw this up. But 2 years from this day, November 4th, this Jets team could be 5-3, 6-2. If you hit on these picks. Now, if you miss on them, hey, you just missed. But the main thing is getting that quarterback right. Whether it be Sellers or anybody else. But that's hope. So I did want to play this. This guy on TikTok was breaking the news to his kids about Sauce Gardner getting traded. And, I just love these moments when these kids are 6, 7, 8, 9, when they really take emotion to it. Stuff like this makes me want to have kids, And I'm getting a little older, but this is a great moment with a dad and his kids explaining these trades. Dad understands like me, but the little ones, they get emotionally tied to the players. Listen up.
What?
It's okay, okay?
What?
The Jets traded Sauce today.
To where? To where?
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'll get you a different one. He went to Indianapolis, and they also traded. They also traded Quinn Williams.
I play Sandy Deal.
He did, but so did Sauce.
No, I don't like the Jets. Dad, did Quincy leave?
No, Quincy's still there. No, it's fine. Quinn and Williams on the Cowboys. Sauce went to the Colts. It's okay.
I like the Colts now.
Guess what? We got 3 first-round picks for it. So we have.
We got 3 first-round picks for it. Dad's like me. Hey, we got to look ahead. Don't get them both. Listen, Dad, let me give you some advice. Get them started on fantasy now so you can take that emotional attachment away. And I think they'll be okay. They'll be okay. The one stomping his foot there. Yeah. We got 3 first-round picks. You got to love that, man. But anyways, I think the Jets will be fine. They just got to get quarterback right. They got a good offensive line. They drafted offensive line last year. They had a decent running game. Breece Hall wanted out. They couldn't get him done. But this team, the line's there. It's easier to build a defense than an offense. Okay, Dallas. Dallas was a big one. The Quentin Williams, we talked about it just now. 2nd-round pick, 2026. 1st-round pick, Dallas sends over to the Jets in 27. So remember, and it'd be the higher of the two. Whether it be Dallas's 1st-round pick or, of course, Green Bay's 1st-round pick. It's probably going to be Dallas's, but it's going to be one of those. And I will say this. Listen, Quentin Williams, 28 years old, 3-time Pro Bowler, last Pro Bowl meaning last year, okay, 2 full years left on this contract, and still playing every week. And they also picked up Logan Wilson for like a 6th-round pick out of Cincinnati. I can't really go on here. And I love the bash. You guys know I love the bash Jerry Jones. But the fact is that they're third in total offense. They're still in it, even though they're 3-5-1. But defense, listen, they're 29th in run defense. They're 31st in total defense. Could they get that down to 18-22? I don't think that's all world. Could they get that down to 18 and 22? 22 for the Cowboys. I think that would be reasonable. That would definitely be reasonable for them to potentially, because listen, this is the best offense they've had in years. This is the best Dak's played in years. This is the best Dak's played ever, you know? And then you've got George Pickens there. So it's not a bad trade here. That is not a bad trade there for the Dallas Cowboys. Mad New Yorker, you ought to hang around here. I've got a clip to play for you. Jets are about to be a expansion team. Yeah, that's a boy the Titans look right now, New Yorker. So I think that the amount that they've got for what I think they come out pretty good. Now, if you miss on these picks, you miss, but you're getting a lot of cap off of you. Quentin Williams, Sauce Gardner, a lot of money just re-signed. Remember him and Garrett Wilson around the same time. I'm sure they wish they could have dealt him. But they got the line. That's the key. They got that offensive line. Their left tackle is on a rookie contract. They just got to make the right picks. They got to make the right picks, and mainly the quarterback. It comes down to that. Everything else will fall into place. And, of course, like I said, do away with Aaron Glenn. Take your time. Get you a good offensive-minded coach. Get a good offensive-minded staff. Get a good staff, a veteran staff around him. And with all that, that's enticing, as long as Woody Johnson. As far as the Cowboys, hey, I don't think it's a bad trade. I really don't. I don't think that's a bad trade whatsoever. And like I said, side note, I mentioned Buffalo earlier. The Eagles, I don't even think I put down the guy who they traded for. I think it was Jalen Phillips there, edge rusher out of Miami. And of course, Brandon Graham has came out of retirement. And so I really do think that I think the Eagles are doing really well. I'll talk about them a little bit more in the Power 5. Big day today. Again, very disappointed. Buffalo sitting on their hands, and they're probably not going to be playing in February in the Super Bowl like I thought they would be. Okay. Now, let's go to speaking of the Devils. Listen, Bills, big game, called it on this program, thought they were going to win this game, said they were more fresh, really kept Patrick Mahomes in line there, Matt Milano, a newly acquired Joey Bosa. Speaking of the Devils, that's what you need out of Bosa come playoff time. That type of play is what you need out of a Joey Bosa. Can he stay healthy between now and it's November 4th? Can he be healthy in January, late December? That's what you need out of him. Patrick Mahomes, no touchdowns, only 5 yards rushing. Don't know if you can really keep that level of play up to that, but that's what they did Sunday afternoon here. That's a picker-upper to their psyche, coming off 2 rough losses and a recent bye week. Listen, Kansas City had not had their bye week. Remember, they played on Monday. I wrote these notes prior to the trade deadline, and I put this in my note. I hope the Bills add some depth to their defense. Of course, they didn't. That's what I was saying. So we'll see. So I really do think that it was a good win for Buffalo. I do think Kansas City will probably make some adjustments. They'll come back. And it was a great game of 2 high-level quarterbacks when you're in a league right now with a bunch of young first and second year guys. It's a big drop-off and quality of football when you don't watch a guy like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, in my opinion, compared to some of these other young guys. They're still working on it. But anyways, Minnesota, Detroit here. Carlos says, well, I'll look at that here in a minute. Minnesota, with extra time off being underdogs, Kevin O'Connell and teams not having, and I should have put this into thought, but I think Carlos kind of pulled one out of his rear end there last week here. Basically, Kevin O'Connell, there's not a lot of film on J.J. McCarthy. Remember, he's been hurt a lot. Detroit hadn't seen him yet. And O'Connell did his quarterback magic here. It's like the Cinderella magic he puts on these quarterbacks for the first time. Remember, he took Josh Dobbs and they beat Atlanta. The guy'd been in the locker. He'd been on the facility for like 3 days. It was an emergency situation. And they start him and they win on the road. It was crazy. But he does this. And, Brian Flores' defense getting 5 sacks, pressures on Jared Goff here, holding their running game in check for 65 yards. Not sure if Minnesota is really that good or if Detroit Lions simply look flat. And Dan Campbell said so himself. Listen up, if I can find it. And, of course, I don't think that I got that clip. But I will play, and I thought I had it saved in here. I might have to, I think what I'll do is I'll play it on my phone. But listen to Mad New Yorker correctly pick this upset. Direct score there, Mad New Yorker.
You might see an upset here. You might see an upset. I feel like, I think it's going to be 27-24. This is a field goal game. And I think the Vikings are going to just sneak in and win. And this is their
You're going to call for the Vikings to win.
Yeah, this is a Super Bowl, man. They gotta win a game.
Yeah, 27-24. That's Carlos's favorite score, and he nailed it exactly. I clipped that and put it all over social media. Congratulations, Carlos. And I'll try to play that again when we come back here. So I did not get a chance to play the Dan Campbell clip, but I believe that I have it saved to my phone here. And I knew I was forgetting something, folks. My apologies for not downloading this clip here from Dan Campbell, which I want to say that I have off the TikTok here. I might be able to find it here. Hold on. Let's see if we can find Mr. Dan Campbell talking about the game here. Basically saying that he didn't have the guys ready. He's saying basically he didn't have the guys ready, and I totally agree with him. And he said it's on him. And I totally agree with him there. I'm seeing, and I hate it when I can't find these clips like this. But either way, I believe that, like Carlos said, that was basically their Super Bowl. I believe whoever they play, I'm going to say they play like the Commanders, Detroit. They will be like a house of fire after this. They'll be like a house of fire after this, and I think they'll take care of business here coming up next week. All righty then. All right, in other news, who could it be now? Dun, 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 dun. Indianapolis. I did pick the Colts to win this game, but I never did wager it or anything. And I've always said this, that Mike Tomlin, I'm going to try to bring on Steelers fan. Maybe tomorrow if I can get him to come on. My neighbor Roy to come on and talk about the Steelers. But Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, he has a way when their backs are against the wall, when they're major underdogs. Remember, the Colts were the number 1 seed in the NFL one time. He has a way of getting these guys to play way above their head at certain times of the season, And Sunday was one of those days. And I put this in my notes. I guess it finally got to the Steelers D that they're first in pay, that they're the highest paid D. Yeah, J.J. Watt, what are you doing, man? Joey Porter Jr., Cameron and Hayward called the team out before the game. Said, "Hey, man, we gotta play better than this. This is embarrassing." He said that after the Green Bay game. Cameron Hayward, defensive tackle, who was a regular watcher of SportsScope, by the way. Back in the day when I could see who's watching SportsScope on the Periscope app. That's how I started the show on the Periscope app, But that defense caused 6 turnovers. I guess a normally flawless offense here, ran by Daniel Jones and head coach Shane Steichen. Meanwhile, Jones' Cinderella season struck midnight for one game. But I thought it was more about T.J. Watt than the defense and Jones and Colts errors that they can correct. That game kept them in first place. I guess they're seeing the Steelers come about at the beginning of the season when I made my preseason. I thought they'd be pretty decent. Now they're pretty banged up. I know Darius Slay was got hurt next game, and I'm going to have to go back and see. They got a big game coming up against the L.A. Chargers on here's Sunday night or Sunday this coming up week. And I'm not sure who picking that game because Joe Alt's out. But they did add Trevor Penning, the Chargers did, from the from the Saints there for like a 6th round pick. They did shed that player, Carlos, Mad New Yorker. But as far as Pittsburgh is concerned, we'll have to see. They may have caught a break there and be able to get pressure on Justin Herbert, because that line, you can get pressure on Daniel Jones and NFL's best offensive line. You can definitely get it on Herbert, although he's got a better coach there. And, of course, Herbert's a better player overall than a Daniel Jones. But that'll be an interesting game. But we'll see. I mean, hey, that's why you play the games. Upsets happen. Mad New Yorker says the Cowboys will get help, but I'm sure that would not be able to get out of the first round. If that'd be nice. They just want to make the playoffs at this point. They probably need 3 more players. Yeah, they need some more players. They definitely, but one defensive tackle, I do think, could be wrong, but I do think you will be able to see a difference there. Now, how big a difference if you can drop them from 29th, 30th to 18th to 22 by adding a linebacker and a defensive tackle, that would be interesting. I think that's possible if Quentin comes in there motivated and playing like his hair is on fire. I think that is very much possible. And I'm not a Cowboys guy, but I had to call balls and strikes, and I do think that that's a pretty good pickup for the Cowboys. Remember, the Cowboys, folks, they saved about $40 million a year trading Micah Parsons. Now, they paid 20 of this. 20 of this is due next year to Quentin Williams. He needs to play like his hair is on fire. They've got 2 years left. Maybe next year they extend him another year or two, on this contract. But it's just not a bad play for the Cowboys whatsoever, in my personal opinion. The guy is healthy and he's contributing. All right. Now, so that takes me to the Power 5 here. That takes me to the Power 5. Okay, number 5. I know that they almost lost last week, they're still a young team, this New England Patriot team. Remember, it seems like that Drake May has been in the league for 3-4 years. This is his second year in the league. All right. Remember, he's on a new coaching staff, new offensive coordinator, and he's thriving. He's thriving. And I knew, and I said this to Mad New Yorker on Thursday, I said that Atlanta got embarrassed so bad on Sunday, the Sunday prior to Miami. I said, they're going to play hard. They might upset. That's why I put it in the 5 biggest games. It turned out to be a good game. I watch enough of these games. I've got a feel for how they're going to play out the next week. But either way, number 5, New England, 6-game winning streak, Drake May. All that being said, highest completion percentage in the NFL. Patriots, they're a very aggressive team. The defense is a different, like I had, Keith Angle on a couple of weeks ago. And Keith was like, listen, they're a different team when they've got Christian Gonzalez back there at the cornerback position. Tough game, tough win. But listen, they are, I want to say they're the 2 seed right now in the AFC. And they're technically leading the AFC East. So Buffalo, another reason not to rest on your laurels. New England's made it in my top 5 in the Power 5. Buffalo, I did put them at 4. I do think if they play New England again, I think they'll beat them. I think they'll probably catch New England. I think they're going to beat New England in New England, but we'll see. They should have added somebody, and they didn't. That really ticked me off. But either way, I got them at number 4, 2 straight wins. You can make the argument over the past 2 teams led by young quarterbacks, they couldn't stop the run with Matt Milano being back, but they look like a different team. 2 dominant performances. Now they've got Milano back. But how long can they keep the linebacker that has different injuries, various injuries from time to time? When are they going to get Ed Oliver back? Is he going to be up to par? I don't know. Either way, they kept Patrick Mahomes from running, kept him from throwing touchdowns. Not sure how long that will last, but putting him in the top 5 does not seem out of the question when you got an MVP level quarterback and you got a running game. You got another just absolute splendid running game out of James Cook and that offensive line. They have to stay disciplined on their running game. They have to play like their defense is the worst in the league, which it has been at times, particularly against the run. That's how you stop a powerhouse like that. You run the ball on their side. Well, they got to get it running on their side so they can rest their defense and get some of their playmakers the football. So I've got them at 4. Very impressed the last couple of weeks with the Buffalo Bills, especially the way they played. Patrick Mahomes like that. Man, Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks of all time and kept him. No touchdowns for Mahomes. 5 yards rushing. That's very good speed. If they can pay attention like that every week, they can win the Super Bowl. Okay, Colts. Colts added Sauce Gardner, man. Sauce, you get this guy over here. That's all you got to do. I just read the stats on Sauce Gardner, okay? Best quarterback against number 1 wide receivers according to Next Generation Stats here. They lost. Pittsburgh was desperate. I didn't expect them to play flawless every single week. That's the worst sloppy game. A lot of that caused by Pittsburgh being humiliated the way they have. I guess people like myself talking about the Steelers having to use the silent snap count at a home game last week. I guess that really got to the players. But either way, the Colts, I still got the Colts here at number 3. They're still the number 1 seed in the AFC. Listen, 6 turnovers is still almost won the game, And of course, like I said, they've added Sauce Gardner. Still got a great line. Still got an excellent run game. Possibly Rookie of the Year with Tyler Warren. I know that Emeka Buka is playing well. It depends on who can stay healthy the longest. Them two's battling out for Rookie of the Year there. from the offensive standpoint at the tight end position. Michael Pittman there. It's a very balanced team that could make it a few rounds in this playoffs, possibly a Super Bowl run if they play their cards right. Because the AFC does not look that strong, if you ask me. It's as you can see, I keep changing it every week. Okay, number 2, Kansas City. I say, well, why would you do that, right? Why? Because Kansas City was coming up on their bye week. They had a short week playing against the Buffalo Bills, and they got caught somewhat weak there. And of course, the Bills took advantage. The Bills had to. They didn't want to fall another game behind the New England Patriots. Plus, you got to look at the fact that they got a bye week this week, and they play Denver after this. They're going to get this left tackle Josh Simmons back, and quite frankly, they've done a pretty good job up to this point blocking and whatnot. But listen, they scored at least 28 points in the last 6 games. I can see the defense making some adjustments there as well. They're going to get Pacheco back. They're going to try out some new. In other words, they got this guy Smith, this running back. I think his name's Harrison Smith, rookie running back. I think they're going to get him more involved in their running game after the bye week. Okay, with Rashid Rice, one more week to prepare for the whole team to come out. They could go on a good run after this particular bye week. So I do like what they're doing here. That's why I got them at number 2. Wait a minute. Did I skip one, folks? I went to New England, Buffalo, Colts. Oh, man. Yeah. New England, Buffalo, Colts. And of course, number one, the Philadelphia Eagles. I probably could have put the Rams at number 2. Probably could have put the Rams at number 5. Let's see how the Rams play out. They just play one of the worst teams in the league. I know they look good. But either way, Philadelphia recently just traded for Jalen Phillips. I mentioned that. They also added quarterback depth, Jaire Alexander, there in the trade. And, of course, Michael Carter from the Jets. Last 2 games shown they can win passing the ball when their back's against the wall, with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown against Minnesota. And, of course, Saquon Barkley, his big game against the New York Giants. The Super Bowl champs general manager, Howie Roseman, sent the message to his players and this organization that, listen, I know A.J. Brown, big contract. Saquon Barkley, new contract, okay? Big contract. Jalen Hurts, big-time rookie, probably going to get a big contract. Jalen Carter on the defensive side. He's sending all these guys this message right here. And, of course, the ownership. Mr. I forgot, Lurie, whatever. Jeffrey Lurie is the guy's name. They're sending that message with this move, getting a guy like a Jalen Phillips, that we are not satisfied with what happened last year. We're here to win another Super Bowl. Now I'm telling you, once come, I think they play Sunday. And it's a big game with Green Bay, who was looking ahead and soft. Go figure, but very talented, can beat anybody. They're sending that message that we're here to win. Okay, we're still here to win. We're not here to look at 24. We're here to still win. That's why I got them at the number 1 team in the Power 5. Obviously, honorable mention, the Rams, very good. Rams could be the best team in the league, and I left them out of the Power 5. I'm sorry, but they just beat the Saints. We got to let this thing play out. They did add some cornerback help there, Roger McCreary. Let's see how that plays out here. But the Mad New Yorker says Chargers get Trevor Manning. The Saints, Seahawks got Shaquille from the Saints. Yeah. So the Saints did move on some players, and that Shaheed there is not a bad player. He's a second receiver there. They need a lot of the picks. They actually need what the Jets just did. The Titans need what the Jets just did, but the Jets just capitalized more. I've been saying they need to bust up their team for 5 years, and they won't do it. Mickey Loomis won't do it. But Carlos says, the Seahawks, they're an honorable mention. The Rams, that's going to be a tough division right down to the end. The NFC West there. But again, my Power 5, probably a little shaky this year or this week. Philadelphia, Kansas City. Kansas City. Let me make sure I got them all right here. New England, Buffalo. Philadelphia, Kansas City, Indianapolis Colts, Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots. Now, of course, that's subject to change. That's just a snapshot of where we are right now in the NFL. Carlos also says, the man New Yorker, why the Saints won't let Pavia go, or Chris Olave go, would be nice to see him with Jackson Smith and Jigma, 2 former Ohio State Buckeye players there. That would be interesting. I got a feeling now. I know it was just one game with Tyler, what's his name, Shote, for it was the Syracuse quarterback. I want to say he was like a 2nd or 3rd round pick there. That's getting the start there with New Orleans. I wouldn't be surprised if they just didn't think that he was ready to play. Now let's see how it plays out as a starting quarterback. So they could be in the quarterback ring themselves, be in the quarterback market themselves with the Miami, perhaps, and they got to do something with Tua. And of course, the New York Jets, definitely in the quarterback market, coming up in the NFL draft, coming up in April. Okay. All right. Now, let's go to other news and notes here. Let's see. And, of course, Howie Roseman talked about the Eagles again. He was asked if he'd entertained any trade offers from A.J. Brown. He says, I think this is from Howie Roseman, teams that win. This is from a winner. I think that when you're trying to be a great team, it's hard to trade a great players, and A.J. Brown's a great player. He wears the C for a reason, so I guess he's one of the captains. I didn't know that. He's an important part of this team, of this organization. He cares about winning. He cares about his teammates. And I think that when you're a team like ours, that is looking forward for an opportunity to compete for a championship, you just don't get rid of players like that. And so we feel lucky to have him on our team and excited for the second half of the season with him. Yeah. Hey, listen, you probably couldn't get a great offer for the guy, and he's not the best at drafting. I know he did a good job with DeVonta Smith. I would have probably tried to move Brown, but you can see, for example, the Minnesota game when they totally shut the run down and they needed Brown on the outside along with Smith. And, of course, Jalen Hurts did beat them in that particular game here. Okay? All righty then. Here's an interesting tidbit here. And I've got this from 2 different sites here. As far as the Tennessee Titans, I want to say they traded, was it Draymond Jones or something like that? I don't even remember who they got. It wasn't a big name player. It wasn't Javonte Sweat. It wasn't Jeffrey Simmons. It was a mid-level player. But according to Mike Giardi, and I want to say he is with, let me double check and make sure. I want to say he's with Boston ESPN, but I want to double check just to be on the safe side before I say this, because I did not think I was going to have this much time left in the program. Let's see who this guy's with. Boston Sports Journal media company. I don't know how valid he is, but I noticed that it's going around, and that the X out picked this up, that he said that I was told that there's some conversation league wide that the Tennessee might be unwilling to make deals with New England because the owner, Amy Adams Strunk, continues to think too much about how things ended with Vrabel and is inclined to help his new team. We'll find out soon enough with the likes of edge rusher Adrian Key, Tony Pollard, and Calvin Ridley. Of course, none of them got traded, and they're still on the roster. And if that's true, along with the bad head coach hire, which they could very well have, again, like I said a couple of weeks ago, she needs to go ahead and sell the team. You know, she needs to sell the team and just move on. And it does sound like that there could be some pettiness there. We know it's not too far out of the ordinary in the NFL with the egos, even with the owners. You know, Mark Schlereth said something really funny one time, and he said this more than one time. He said, if you think the egos are bad here, you think the egos are big down here in the locker room, look upstairs, okay? Look up into that owner's box. Look up into that for the front office box here. Those are some big egos. Those are big egos, you know? And the more I think about it, yeah, I think about Bill Belichick not wanting the Patriots to scout, or even scouts in the locker room or coaching staff or whatever, around his Carolina players, because he don't like the way Robert Kraft treated him at the end. 20 years, millions of dollars, won several championships. He's petty like that, you know? And as a side note, Belichick's doing better. Not to go too far off in the weeds here, but they beat Syracuse last week. The week before that, would they go overtime with Virginia and missed a 2-point conversion? Virginia was ranked at the time. So he's starting to look like Belichick, and nobody's really not talking about that in North Carolina, as a side note, that's being done. So I hope that's not true. Jordan Schultz here, and I think Schultz report, he's very reputable around the NFL. He says, despite the significant league-wide interest, the Titans are not trading T'Vondre Sweat. And I thought, why would you trade your second-round pick from last year? You know? They said, well, Roger McCreary gave him away last week, former Auburn player, former second-round pick, pretty good slot corner. They basically gave him away for like a 6th-round pick or something. And I know that he was going to be a free agent, I want to say at the end of the year. But here's my thing. What if the new coach's staff would want to put him in their system? You know what I'm saying? What if he would have fit perfect in the new coaching staff system? Well, now you just lost a slot corner there. You know, you got a quarterback on a rookie contract. And Schultz says the view him as a young ascending cornerstone and key part of their future plans, and they have made it clear they're not looking to move him. But why was it even brought up from the get-go? You know what I'm saying? But, and of course, the Colts, they traded away their linebacker. CBS put out most points scored since week 6. The Bears are 3-1 during this 117. The Chargers are 3-1. 114 with the Bears. The Colts, I mentioned the Colts here. or 127, 3-1. And the Cincinnati Bengals, since week 6, 131 points they have scored. And of course, they're 1-3. Zach Taylor, you want to put him on coaches with Mike McDaniel, hot seat. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I think it could be very well close that he could be on the hot seat. Carlos says, John Gruden to the Titans, what I would do. Yeah. And I had Rich Ferris, and we had a pretty – I should put that interview back out, that show, Rich back out here. Rich works for 104.5 Cumulus Sports, which is Cumulus on station, 104.5 Zone. They're the flagship of the Tennessee Titans. He listens to a lot of what the Titans are telling the local media here, and a lot of that is, with all due respect, Rich, I mean, a good friend of mine from high school, but it's a line of BS, and he just don't think that Amy Adams is petty like this, that she's having Chad Blinker and everybody, she's harder from football. And I said, no, I don't think that's the case. But I brought up all that with Rich, but he also didn't think Gruden was going to be a good hire, and he's fallen off. But I looked at what Gruden took over with the Raiders. I think Gruden has learned a lot. I think he was getting the Raiders back on track, and then disaster all hit at once, with the Raiders. I mean, you had the tragedy there with the receiver, and I can't remember his name right now, that was in prison for killing a woman for driving too fast. And then you had the emails that had nothing to do with John Gruden, that was used against John Gruden, which he should have sued the league, basically forced him out. But I do think Gruden, you look at what he's doing with Barstool Sports, the guy's like 61, 62. He looks 45, 50 years old. I think he would be definitely a good candidate to interview and possibly take over this job. I can see him working with Cam Ward, and he would put the energy pop that this organization means, him or Mike McCarthy. One of them two. Them would be the first two that I would interview. And maybe Brian Flores, if you can get a good staff around him, would be the other. But they're coming into a dome in 2 years, and they needed a deal like what the Jets got, and they didn't get it. I guess they didn't quite have the quality players of a Sauce Gardner or Quentin Williams or whatnot. Jeffrey Simmons would have been one of those players that you'd want to get a Sauce Gardner, 2 first-round picks, and maybe something else type of deal for, like they got for Williams there, per se. But a lot of that, we'll just have to see how this thing plays off. Matt New Yorker says way better spot for him on an NYC team. Maybe, the Jets, if they want to take Gruden, that would be a good idea, perhaps. I think that would be enticing for him. Colin Cowherd talked about Lane Kiffin going to the Miami Dolphins would be a good play. Listen, maybe talk to Lane Kiffin about taking that Jets job. I mean, he's familiar. Lane Kiffin, maybe Ty Simpson, all those draft picks. Kiffin is recruited really well. He recruits all the big name players. It would be worth a talking to. It would be worth it. Maybe Mike McCarthy would like that Jets job. I don't know. I know one thing. If they hit on that quarterback, they're going to be in good shape in a couple of years. Just 2 quick years. That'd be nothing. 2023. Now it's 2025. I mean, you could be, instead of 1-8, you can be 6-2, perhaps 2 years from now, and looking great if you hit that quarterback right. So, folks, if you like the show, share the show. I may be back on live tomorrow. I may not. I'm going to try to line up a guest here. Got to go one or two directions. Still a lot going on in the college game, and I'll get to the rest of the other games. But this trade deadline, I just wanted to get here on here. Looks like we had a good crowd tonight, good show. Either way, you'll still get to see Sports Scope. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.